feeling like a true rebuild. I don't remember the last time. Well, I do remember the last time we rebuilt because it happens like every 4 or 5 years, really. Dolphins fans, welcome back to Outside the Pod. I'm Danny. My brother Jules is with me. We're talking Miami Dolphins football as usual. Don't forget to like and subscribe our channel and leave us a comment. Chop that subscribe button. Do whatever you want, but get in a conversation with us. We're talking about how we're feeling with this rebuild. Feeling like a true rebuild. I don't remember the last time. Well, I do remember the last time we rebuilt because it happens like every 4 or 5 years, really. But it definitely feels like a rebuild. Like there's no messing around, right? Even though there's a bunch of dead money, there's a lot of people might be saying, hey, we should have just kept them. I mean, we're paying, there's memes out there. I saw a meme that it was Sullivan at the combine, and the caption was like, Sullivan's out here telling the players what, his best kept secret of paying players to not play with the Miami Dolphins, or whatever it is. But it really, it's not really Sullivan's thing, right? That was, no. But that's what it is. A lot of our, excuse me, a lot of our money is going to players that are not on our team anymore. Yeah, with that being said, the more money that's not going to be, that's getting paid and is not going to be with Miami anymore, although we got something back, is probably one of my favorite players on the team. I just loved his energy. I loved the kid for what he was. He seemed like a really good kid. And one of my favorite players, I think he could have been more than what he has been in Miami. So I wish him nothing but the best. But Jaylen Waddle has been traded to the Broncos. As we all know, this is no news. This is the weekend after. But this is when me and Jules have time to do this. So we'll react to it now. And we got a 30 overall pick in the first round, 2026. Third round, 2026 pick. And a fourth round, 2026 pick, which is a pretty good amount of picks for Jaylen Waddle. I think it's fair. But like I said, very sad to see Jaylen Waddle go. But at the same time, I understand when we're doing a real rebuild like we're doing right now, we have to we have to let go of some of our prized pieces that we love to continue to do this rebuild, because his best years are most likely gone. And, and really for him, he probably wants to go somewhere and compete. And we're not going to give him that for the next 3-4 years. How you feeling, Jules?
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of those, man. We're going to feel it. We're going to see some of our favorite players go. It's sad to see the Cheetah, the Penguin, and Phillips last year. A lot of players that we've been growing to love in Miami. And so that's what's painful about it. But we got to look at it as a business, just like the organization is. And, for the health and long-term prosperity of the Dolphins, you got to part ways with some of these prize pieces. But yeah, definitely Jaylen Waddle. I just remember him as a good guy. He's always smiling. He's always positive. And on the field, what can you say? The guy had 3 straight 1,000-yard seasons when he came in. But I do feel, and part of this has to do with the Miami offense, right? It's been bad the last couple of years, and so his production went down. I'm not going to fault him for any of that.
Mm-hmm.
So I think he, wherever he goes, it's once it clicks, man, that guy is going to he's going to put up some monster numbers, and he's going to be very, very good for someone, for the Broncos or whoever else he goes with, after that. But yeah, sad to see him go, but I understand it. And let's move on. Let's move forward and see what we can get with these picks.
Right. And I mean, the Broncos are obviously trying to compete, by the way. Just to throw
Absolutely.
something out, because I mean they were pretty dangerous last year already. I mean they looked like they could have obviously gone all the way, but adding somebody like Jaylen Waddle is going to open it up even more. So good for them. Another AFC teams, we're going to compete with them, but at the same time, like I said, good for them. That's a good move. They lost a few picks, but I think they're looking to compete now and not in the future. So I think adding Jaylen Waddle for them is good. So this is what we're left over now with wide receivers. We got Tutu Atwell, Jalen Tolbert, who we just received over the free agency. One from Dallas. Tutu Atwell came from, I can't remember. It doesn't really matter. But he's a 4.32 guy, apparently. That's another speedster on the field.
He's coming from the Rams.
Right, that's what I thought. I was gonna say the Rams, but I didn't want to misspeak. Well, another 5.32 guy. I'm sorry, 4.32 guy, and so hey, that's gonna that adds additional speed. Kind of. I mean, it would have been nice if we still had Waddle, but now without Waddle, Tutu Atwell could at least get some speed on the field and spread it out a little bit as well. Malik Washington, Taj Washington, Theo Wease, and AJ Henning is looking like our core of wide receivers that are looking to make a move to become probably starting wide receivers for the Miami Dolphins. So again, like I said, most of this episode, what I wanted to get out there is like, you look back at the other rebuilds that we've had, and there was still some big names left, and we do still have a few. I wouldn't say big names, but some names that are I guess, experience. They still have experience with some veterans, and they haven't been moved yet. But there is some rumblings out there of some additional moves coming. That's some speculation, and some of the speculation that usually I don't buy into too much. But based on what the moves that Miami's done so far, I mean, something could happen additionally, kind of like the linebacker Brooks, and maybe Brewer was another thing that they were talking about. Although Jules mentioned to me offline before, they just restructured his contract, so it'd be crazy to move Brewer. But Brooks could be one that could be getting moved as well. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised to seeing some of these guys, high price, coveted talent, to leave the Dolphins, get traded. Not leave, but to get traded so that we can make some more, cap space and things like that, and for Hafley to bring the guys that he wants to bring for his defense, especially, and mostly thinking defense. So the Brooks speculation doesn't surprise me. Another player that I would hate to see go, he probably had, he had a career year last year. So that would be something that, depending on what Hafley wants to do, because you could either build around the guy or bring in a guy that you think you're going to rebuild on. But if Brooks is not your guy, then yeah, you gotta move him probably now, because as far as value, I don't know that Brooks.
He only has a few years left, one or two.
Yeah, I don't know that Brooks can do the same things that he was doing last year. I'm not saying it was flukish. But right now, he probably has some good value because of what he did last year. So if anything, you'd have to move him right now instead of later.
Right. Just to touch on, I kind of want to go down this list because I mentioned dead money of all the players that are getting paid to play somewhere else. 175 million total. Tua with 50 plus million. Tyreek 28.2. Jaylen Waddle now 26.3. Jalen Ramsey 29 or 21. Minka Fitzpatrick 13. Bradley Chubb 11. This is all millions, by the way, not $11 or anything like that. Teron Armstead 11 to sit on his butt for the last 2 years. That's great. James Daniels 5 million. Zach Wilson, that one hurts me a lot. That one hurts because we didn't get anything out of that deal, man. Zach Wilson, 4 million. Alec Ingold, 2 million. Jonnu Smith, 1.7. Nick Westbrook-Akine 1.6. That one hurts a little bit too, even though it's very cheap, but it's still like, dude didn't do anything. Matthew Judon 1.4. Jason Sanders just over 500,000. That's not bad. Cam Smith. Okay, we won't talk. There's a few under 500,000. Cam Smith being one of them. I don't have my freaking whistle ready for him, but yeah, he's one of them. I try to whistle it out, but yeah. Cam Smith, as per usual, giving us the shaft, even though it's not a lot of money. It's only 500,000, but still. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say that'll be the day, man, when we stop talking about Cam Smith. I mean, I'm gonna throw a party or something.
I mean, he's still owed 500,000. So I mean, I figured, after this season, when he probably gets paid the rest of his money, then we probably, completely can forget about what was Cam Smith. I wonder did he get picked up by anybody? I'm wondering that now. That'd be funny. But we probably shouldn't, put too much thought into Cam Smith at this point.
We'll find a way to bring him up again.
I'm sure when we probably could use him or something next season. So yeah, with that being said, let's take a look at what we got left in the roster. And that brightened up my face nice. So, I mean, we got Devon Achane. And I think the reason that they kept him is because, I mean, he's only, three years in, still youngster. And they still want to sell tickets, I think, right? So you have to keep somebody to be able to, kind of bring some electricity into the stadium. Malik Willis is also going to bring that, I think, because he's kind of a fan favorite. I'm still not so bought in. If he was that good, again, he would have been starting already. If you look at the stats for his first few years in the league, it wasn't that good. He did really good last year in reserve, coming in for Love. But again, like I said, that's because defenses weren't used to him and the style of play. So those numbers could really be skewed up to the point where everybody's thinking this dude could blow the league up and just be a starting quarterback, man. I'm going to say right now, Dolphins fans, do not count out Quinn Ewers just yet. I'm going to tell you right now, do not count them out just yet. So we got those guys. Let's see, who else would I be kind of, at least ready to see play? I'm Greg Dulcich. I'm happy they kept.
I still like Jalen Wright and Gordon and Ollie Gordon, you know what I mean? Like those are two guys that, we thought last year Wright was going to have a pretty good year. He had an injury and things like that, but it didn't pan out as we thought. But I still think he's got some good talent in there to play well. So, and I think he's going to have a bigger role, by the way, in this year coming up. But
he has to.
Yeah, in order to keep Devon from injury, I think we need to play him more.
Yeah, and I hope that's if we're obviously in a rebuild. The wins. The players want to get the wins, but as a head coach, you need to know, Halfley, that do not hurt your star player. Your best player on the team right now probably is Devon Achane, give or take a few defenders on the line. Usually, like Zach Sealer maybe is up there. He's still, although his year was kind of slow last year. Yeah, I'm gonna go on a limb say that Devon Achane is probably your best player on the team. So you don't want to put him out there in injury just because you're trying to win games, even though you're not really set up to go anywhere. We're not set up to go anywhere. And I hope that I'm still hoping. I want to see some wins, obviously. And I'm hoping that our line, although it's not getting better from what we left off last year, unless obviously Jonah gets better at his play, and I'm sure he will, but to what point, right? I'm hoping that our run game is still pretty good. I think with Devon Achane, overall, you're going to get a good run game because he's going to break out several chunk plays a game, no matter how bad your offensive line is. He's going to get a couple of, 10-yarders, 10 to 20-yard gains. So that's a plus with having Devon Achane on your team. But, our offensive line is continuing to be the same as last year, basically. But yeah, new tight ends. Go ahead.
Jonah Savanaya makes a step in the positive direction. I think when you're a rookie, yeah, you got stuff you got to figure out. And then I think Jamari Sawyer, I think it's an underrated pickup to me. I think, if you compare it to what we had last year, I think this is definitely a step up, man. I think this is a step in the right direction there. And then the thing is, I think we're going to draft a couple of guys that we could insert in there
from day one. You think
from either guard position, if in case something doesn't pan out there. But yeah, and tackle too, right tackle, because it's still, with Austin Jackson, still a question mark, right? We don't have Larry Borum anymore. Austin Jackson could get hurt at any time again, and then you're at square one again. So yeah, I think we need to bring in some plug and play guys and draft some good talent, hopefully, right?
Right. So having that number 30 gives us definitely a little bit more, obviously more cards to our advantage in our play, because we have a lot of holes now. I mean,
our holes have holes.
Yeah. We've had holes before, but obviously now with Jaylen Waddle gone now, I mean, now you're thinking maybe not this year, but eventually you're going to need a number one receiver. We don't really have that right now. We have a bunch of like threes.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what do you see? And we'll close out with this. What do you see? And we'll talk about more in the draft, in the next few episodes. But what do you see is probably going to be their priority? Knowing that this is a rebuild year, I'm going to start, I guess, because I want to say that wide receivers probably not the priority coming year one of a rebuild. Somebody that has kind of a shorter lifespan, you kind of want to have a wide receiver type once you've gotten the quarterback settled, the O-line settled, all that stuff. Then you kind of, okay, let me get a wide receiver. What do you feel is their priority?
Like I've been saying all the time, I think that best available player overall, since we got so many holes everywhere, I think best available player at the position, especially those first couple of rounds, is just grabbing the best guy that falls on your lap, man. And I have a feeling that somebody, either an edge or an offensive lineman, falls on our lap, and we should take him, man. We should take, one of those trench guys, I would say, because right now the trenches are probably where we are the weakest, either offensive line or edge, defensive end, defensive edge, right? So, I think we should go there first in the 11th pick. I know that if Cardinal Tate falls to 11th, which I don't think so, but if he does, it's gonna be hard not to pick the guy. But I think the trenches is probably our focus. Offensive line, edge, and then maybe tight end, because tight end is also half trench, half pass guy, right? So one of those, I would say. But we got holes all over, man. I getting the best player available in the rebuild is probably the best idea. So I'm gonna hang on to that.
Right. I think we both in agreement with, whatever's on the table. But at the same time, I think also you're right with the biggest hole being on the trenches, not so much the interior of the D-line, but yeah, the edge. Even though we got chopped just a few years ago, he didn't pan out. So far, he hasn't panned out as well as we thought. He has flashes, but I mean, it's been long enough. We need to start seeing him do some real damage from the edge position. So that hasn't been the case. So you're right. In the trenches, everybody always says build in the trenches, and I think continuing to do that. I don't want them to reach. That's my biggest thing. I don't want Miami to reach. So if there's a trench guy at number 11, but he's more likely going to be more of a 20-something pick or something like that. Obviously, skip number 11, do something else with that pick if it's a wide receiver or whatever, and get him at 30 or whatever the case may be. But my biggest thing is do not reach. Get the best player available. Obviously, that makes sense, and I'm sure they know that. They don't need us to tell them that. But but I think you're right. I think the priority will be in the trenches or the secondary on the defense. So depending on which player is available for us in the first round, 11 and 30, that's pretty good. I think we could get some good players in there.
Right, and thankfully there is enough edge guys. I don't know about offensive line, but edge guys and corners probably a few good options there. So I'm happy about it. I'm happy with the picks we got, with where we're at in the draft, and hopefully that could translate into some nice, talent that would be here for a lot of years.
Right.
Hopefully, man. It's going to be a big draft for us. I mean, there's probably the media is probably going to be talking a lot about where they're going to be in our war room, and talking a lot about the Dolphins, because this is a big, if I'd say it's the biggest draft in for the Dolphins in a long time.
Right.
But this is a big one, probably the biggest on any of these 32 teams this year.
Yeah, and we got all the picks. We got a lot of capita, and let's do it. But I'm so interested to see. We've been through this so many times as Miami Dolphins fans. We've been through it a lot, and I begged them not to. I begged this moment not to come again this soon, but at the same time, it did kind of reinvigorate something about the team, right? It's not all bad. It's not all like, well, we're shit again, and and we have to rebuild. Now it's going to take 5 years to compete, or whatever the case may be, or never. Yeah, it just seems that way, right? We'll never compete. But at the same time, there's some movement. There's a different feeling about the team and the organization now, based on the last few regimes that were there, or really ever since I can't even remember his name anymore, our last GM, Chris Grier. So this feels completely different than the Chris Grier era. So I'm excited to see. Any closing comments from you at this point?
Just to agree with you, that it does feel different. There is a different energy about it. There's a semblance of a plan. You could see the wheels turning, and you're seeing it come to fruition. At least the planning stage is right. At least you're positioning yourself in a way where you can get those pieces that's going to take us to the promised land, hopefully in the future, hopefully before my lifetime ends. So but yeah, that's it, man.
Yeah, let's not think about it that way, because that's terrible. Man, it makes you not want to be a sports fan, because you just feel like you're just waiting your whole life to see a championship, and it just never happens. But anyway.
Hey, I might see a championship here in my future, but it'd probably be in the NCAA tournament, not in the NFL.
Exactly. Yeah, well, we might see a championship in a different team, and we already saw it in '97, so that's good. So we've seen some championship. Diamondbacks, for you, have won the World Series in the past, so you've seen that. I'm a little less. Besides the Wildcats, Arizona Wildcats winning a championship in '97, I don't think I've had anything else. Yeah, I haven't seen anybody else win it big. You know what I mean? No World Series for me, no Super Bowls. It's terrible. Anyway, we'll close it out. This will be it for us today. We'll try to get back on the next weekend and get you posted another episode. So stay with us. And again, subscribe, give us a like, and get in the conversation with us, man. All we want to do is hear about the way you're feeling about this whole team on the comments. So I appreciate y'all. But anyway, fins up. I'll see you guys next time.
Fins up.